All right. Mike, you there?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Shane? How you doing?
Hey man. Thanks for coming. Hopefully we got the screen sharing taken care of. And already, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, my first screw up with this new technology, that initial link I sent out, people started using again. So,
Yeah.
this is what I get for trying to be tech forward, man. But thanks for being here.
Well, yeah, like me, technology is not one of our gifts.
No, no, not at all. But everyone, whoever is here, thanks for being here, guys. I'm joined off to my left or right, I guess, depending upon on the screen. Mike Brennan from Movement Mortgage. Mike is a regional director with Movement, a guy that I have failed to recruit for a good number of years. Knows a bunch of people that I work with. Hell of a leader, hell of a recruiter. And for a topic like this, recruiting tactics and strategies, I thought great guy to bring on board. So Mike, man, I really appreciate again you doing this.
Yeah, no, Shane, and thank you for having me. I always enjoy, chatting with you and collaborating. And, I heard such great things about you and Brandon doing this a few weeks ago. And just listen, I think we can all of us can hone in our skills and take advantage of other industry professionals trying to give some tips and tactics and strategies on how to get better.
Yeah, and in the last one, I told everybody that you know what? This is recording on YouTube. I told everyone I didn't record it last time. I did. It was just Brandon made me look horrible because he was so damn good that I got rid of the evidence. Yeah, the guy was a stud. So this time I can't unrecord it. I can't delete it. I think it goes on YouTube right away. But so to set the stage, guys, what we're going to do here? The last time that we did this event, from a recruiting perspective, we really went kind of global. Like whatever questions you had, we try to answer. In recruiting, and me and Mike talked about it. It was kind of cool. We kind of share the same vision. Recruiting really is a journey. It's a process. It's a very long process. I mean, it starts from you don't even know who you want to call, right? The prospecting stage, then to the introduction, then getting to know them through incubation, and so on and so forth. That we felt picking a particular stage in the recruiting process and digging in deep would be more valuable to you guys. Fortunately, we got a bunch of questions on email before this. I do see the comment section. That's actually kind of cool. That's people are coming in. So if you have any follow-up questions or anything in particular you'd like us to discuss, let us know. We'll try our best to answer. Again, I'm a bit of a technology fool, so we'll see if I can get to it. But without further ado, I guess we'll just jump into it. So the stage that we're going to talk about is the meeting stage. And so it's that part of the recruiting process where you've taken the time to get to know the person, you've been staying in touch with them maybe, or maybe it was a first introduction call, but that candidate is now interested in getting to know you better, getting to know your platform better. And I call that the meeting stage. This is the stage where it's an opportunity to not just talk about your platform or yourself, but it's also an opportunity to really get to understand the candidate, what their motivations are and such. And so we want to talk about the different aspects within the meeting stage that you guys should be thinking about as recruiting leaders. And so, Mike, let's start at the beginning of it.
Sure.
Whether it's a recruiter that works with you, like, Ben, or it's you in your own work, you've got a candidate that you're scheduled to talk to. You got a meeting scheduled. It used to be a cup of coffee. Now it's maybe a virtual meeting.
Right.
What are you doing to prepare for that, right? Because as an originator, you would never go to a realtor meeting. And the reason I ask about the prepare and where I start is I still in my career see so many managers when it comes to recruiting meetings, 5 minutes before the meeting, they'll open up the calendar invite and go, oh, I got a recruiting meeting. Let me get to work. But they would never do that if they were an originator meeting a realtor. They would never go to a team meeting where all of their originators are coming without an itinerary scheduled and some agenda prepared. Yet when they go to these recruiting meetings, they kind of go off the cuff. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done if you're really going to obviously succeed at this. What have you done to prepare, for your recruiting meetings with candidates?
Yeah, so Shane, this is a great question, and I think this is probably one of the most important pieces of the process. And you said it, you touched on it, is being prepared. And because I think all of us have been in meetings throughout our career where you go to meet somebody and you realize really quick after a few minutes they know nothing about you. They're trying to tell you they have a better opportunity for you. So, and for me, that's an immediate turnoff, and I'd probably back out right from there. So I think the part of being prepared is definitely key. So some of the things that I think is important for us to work on as recruiters is number one is just doing the research, and there's a couple of things that you can actually work on. The first thing I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to go in and I'm going to check out their history. So I'm going to go into NMLS and I'm going to check, through some of our reporting sites. I'm going to look at the kind of volume that they're doing, where they're doing that volume. I'm going to look at their mix of business to see if it's kind of a fit for what our core programs are.
Okay.
I'm really going to spend a lot of time understanding their market. If I'm going to go in to potentially talk to them about helping them make a move that's not a lateral move to actually increase their business, I need to know their market. So I need to know, is it heavy on Govy or conventional? Is it a big rental market? So to kind of see how I can touch on the program. So I'm going to do a lot of that research on their market, understanding what the opportunity is, what the size of the market is as far as market share. I'm also going to check out other lenders in that area. I'm going to say, hey, who are the big players? Who are the ones that are doing a good chunk of the business and why? And I'm going to try to understand that. So from a business standpoint, I'll work on those items. And then also too, from a personal standpoint, I want to know as much as I can about them. Most important thing is I want to see if they're going to be a fit for us personally, and they're going to gel well with our culture and our company. So I'm going to take a look and I'm going to see, how they're in the community. Are they active in the community? Do they do community outreach? Some stuff that I can kind of connect with them on. Me in the Northeast, I always love to see teams. Who's their sport teams, right? Because I got every kind of team you can imagine up here that, so it's a constant battle. So I just want to find ways to connect and learn as much as I can about them. So when I show up there, they know I came prepared. And by doing that, I think they're going to realize that he came in and he's very serious about exploring the option of us working together.
Now, when you do the market research, are you using Market Track, or what systems do you use to do that kind of research?
Yeah, so most of it I'll use Market Track, because Market Track can go in and it can got mix of business, total volume. I would say in some markets, and I think you've probably seen this as well, it's not 100% accurate. So you got to try to verify it. I mean, listen, we know in the old days you used to go to talk to someone, they're like, yeah, I do $200 million a year. And then research and you're like, wait a minute, how come you only submitted 2 loans? And
like 2006 to 13, that was like the bane of all evil. It was, oh, I'm such this. And then you get like the production report of the pay stub W-2 when you could ask for that stuff. And you're like, oh God, never mind.
Yeah, well, that's when they say, oh, well, I did the deals in my uncle's brother's son's neighbor.
Yeah.
So showing up not on mine. Yeah. So yeah, I want to show them I'm serious. So I think, regardless, and there's a million other things that you can do, and I'm sure you got some great stuff to add, but the more prepared I am when I go in, again, it just gives me confidence. And I think it just gives them confidence that, hey, this is a serious meeting and this is a potential real opportunity.
So now there's a component that what's funny is none of us talk about publicly too much. And I think it's all because we almost want to wish that we're the only ones that have it. But we've gotten to the day and age that at this point, if you're a serious kind of building organization, we all have data on individual originators. We know what their product mix is and we know what their production is. How do you use that information, not necessarily to identify if they're a good fit? Because my gut is before you put them on the calendar, you've kind of roughed that out a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you use, that maybe they're a VA originator or an FHA originator or a jumbo to steer the first meeting in the conversation? Do you use the data that way?
I do, so one thing with me is, you want to make sure that you're fit, and I tell people all the time, you want to make sure you're setting the right expectations, that, as I mentioned earlier, that you're showing them where you can help them increase their business. Because again, nobody wants to just make a move to make a move. Sometimes the grass isn't green on the other side. You just got to water the grass where you're at. And, so I want to make sure that before I meet them, I can show them where I have a real opportunity based on my process, my products, my marketing, like everything that I'm going to do, I'll be able to kind of show them is like, hey, how that will help them increase their business. So I really do utilize that. And of course I verify it, but then sometimes it could be help to this in this sense that sometimes I'll talk to them and say, hey, have you ever been really big in the rental products? And they might say, hey, well, my current situation right now. They're not really a big rental lender. They don't really have those products. It is something that I think I can get into. I get asked a lot of questions. I refer them out to somebody. So I think sometimes it's good not just to highlight what you have to offer, but understand what they're missing and stuff, and see how to increase their business.
Yeah, I agree. That line of questioning has helped quite a bit for us as well. Because just because they don't do government, for example, doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to. It's maybe that they've never been taught, or maybe their credit box is a little bit tighter. Everyone's is tighter now, but you know what I mean, a little bit tighter. Jumbo side, there's still a lot of originators that want to increase their average loan balance, right? Because bips times loan balance is more income.
Yes.
So it's a good coaching opportunity, and such. And we can talk about that when we get into actually the mechanics of the first meeting. We got asked, do you bring them something as a takeaway from your meeting? Dossier, recruiting packages, company info. We're virtual now, but when you were meeting people face to face, can you talk about what you would bring and maybe what you've done to supplement that, during whatever we're in right now, the work from home?
Yeah, so definitely. So for me, I definitely want to bring anything that I think would be valuable for them to take back and share. Because obviously, when you're meeting either face to face or now the new normal on a virtual, you have a short window of time. And there's a lot of information to go through. And like you said, Shane, I love it. This is a process, right? You don't expect to go in and they're going to jump. I mean, listen, it's scary if you meet them in the first meeting and they're like, all right, when do I sign? I mean, that's almost like.
So I did that to my wife, and somehow she still married me. I have no idea how that worked.
Yeah, well, hey, then you're a better recruiter than me. It took me 15 years. So, so I think, like, obviously, like I said, and I think that's part of stuff that I like is like, hey, a wow factor. Am I doing something a little different to bring something of value to them to go? So, I've become over the years a very big student in learning, reading, all sorts of books and learning from different people. So sometimes I'll bring like a current book, like the book I'm reading right now, that one of the best books is The 12th Week Year. One of the best books that I've ever read in my life, especially now and stuff, about kind of redefining kind of what your year looks like in short window time. So sometimes some stuff on that. I'll definitely bring stuff like my benefit package, or health or wellness, stuff on 401k. Because what I tell them all the time is like, hey, this isn't just you making a move. This is your family coming over to our company. So I think about a lot when I'm meeting the potential recruit is what can I bring them so they can go home to the family. And so a lot of the spouses, they want to know about the benefits. They want to know about the 401k and, what health and wellness stuff we have. What other added benefits do the company have? So I try to bring a lot of stuff to them that will kind of share with them more big picture who we are and then how we can do it. And then also I always follow up with a lot of links. Listen, in technology, because of Zoom now, like I'm sending them links on videos where there's a whole library of stuff, whether it's community outreach, process driven programs, what our marketing platform looks like. So I want to give them as much information as possible. I tell them, like, listen, my job is just to be transparent, share everything with you and take a look, because what might be important to one might not be as important to another. Yeah. I don't want to make an assumption on what they're looking for. I just want to give them anything and then say, hey, I'm going to be your guide to help you get that next information.
So I'll add on to this just a little bit of filling in the gaps. And that was awesome, dude, by the way. Thank you. Seriously. And the book thing, it's interesting. Just a little sidebar. I've got a guy on our team who's just awesome, guy named Matt Wagner, who has gotten into the same type of stuff, like books that are really kind of changing his life and having an influence on him. And it's created an opportunity for him to kind of create a small community of people that have a shared interest in that. And so the fact that you're a reader and educating yourself, and that alone is an opportunity. But jumping into the other things, I'm just going to kind of fill in some of the gaps. When we were meeting people in person, something that so you're a sports guy, and do you ever hear the story about Steph Curry being recruited to Under Armour and how they went into Nike and so they misnamed him, right? And that recruiting process of Steph Curry, where he ultimately landed at Under Armour, we were building out our marketing deck, when that kind of whole story was coming out. And it kind of hit me that when you're recruiting, it doesn't matter what you're recruiting, personalizing it to the human being, and showing that you actually created something for them matters. Because we can all just show up with our corporate paraphernalia. But if we show up with a cover letter that, for example, has their picture on it and their name on it, and has information that is their background, right? We'll go the extra mile. And so we would actually, we called it a pitch deck. It was basically just a cover letter that enabled us to really personify it, or personalize it to the human being. Now that we're doing Zoom meetings, when you and I first popped on, I was on the phone, when we were in the back end, I was actually talking to my marketing team. That's the beauty about one of these events, is it actually made me think of, what am I not doing that I should be doing? And I'm going to see if I can do this. They're going to actually build this for us. So I guess you guys can all copy it if you want. Let's see if I can bring this up. Now I did this to embarrass you. But imagine like a marketing team actually doing this kind of thing well, and we can really personalize it to a candidate. Whenever you do like a Zoom meeting,
that was an 80s party, so.
You love this, right? This is Mike, everybody, just in case you're curious. But if you're going to do a Zoom meeting with a candidate, why wouldn't the first thing that they see when you pop on be a welcome page, like thanking them, for taking the time and maybe highlighting some of the things that you're going to talk about? Yeah. That type of thing works in everything else that we do. We need to do more of that in recruiting. The other thing that I find is, and this only works if you're a leader who does social media, is I've found studying, you'd mentioned looking at their social sites to get their community involvement, to get their personal interest, family, that type of thing. I like to look at it tactically to understand what they're trying to accomplish in social media. I still find there's a lot of originators that, well, I know I got to be on social, but I have no clue what I'm doing, and they don't know how to create engagement, and they don't know the right kind of content. And we call it a social audit. And that term came from Alec Hansen, who's one of our leaders, where you look and you say, okay, look, if somebody was if a realtor gave your name out, before they call you, this borrower is going to look you up. This is what they're going to see, and it's maybe, a screenshot of a shoddy LinkedIn page, and a Facebook page with nothing. And I think it's a good opportunity for you as a leader to coach them. Like, look, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I help you with your personal brand, because I can tell you want it, but there's some low-hanging fruit that we could teach you right out of the gates that would help you with conversion and capture and such in your social. So I like that kind of prep work. And then, something else that a few of my leaders, and then we can move on to the next thing, is references. Like are you familiar with Zenix?
I am. Yeah.
So Zenix used to teach look at this. I guarantee you inside of that, you've got an itinerary somewhere.
I do.
Yeah. Now, I've never been an itinerary guy. That's not my thing. Like walking in with the itinerary, that was always weird to me. But they had on the bottom of it references. So like as a candidate, like, look, here at the end of it, my job. Like I'm trying to get you on my team, aka I'm trying to sell you a little bit. Call these. Ask them about what I am as a leader. And it's a good takeaway from a first meeting, because it shows that you're not afraid to let other people sell you, so to speak, right? And tell the real story. So very cool. All right, moving on. And like I told you in the email, we could spend an hour on preparing for a meeting. Like,
and you referenced Zenix, and Casey Cunningham and Zenix is an incredible organization, years of going through this. But Shane, I just want to say, like, again, talking about being prepared, showing up with their name on it, all that stuff. Again, it just shows commitment to saying, hey, we're serious about this. And I think also, which is very important, is when you go with that, I think one of the most important things, that first initial thing, is set expectations and set the agenda. So, know what you want to accomplish in that meeting. Don't just be like, hey, so tell me what's going on. No, say, hey, so here, I just want to share 3 things that I want to accomplish during this meeting. Here's the 3 things that I want to accomplish. And is there anything you want to add in? Because for the in essence of time, I want to make sure I cover what's important to you. So I want to do that. Also, what you said about doing that social audit and all that stuff, I'm a huge fan, and I tell everybody as well, is I'm not trying to make you an MM loan officer or a Loan Depot loan officer. Like, I'm trying to make you the best version of you. So doing that audit will help me realize what I can bring to the table, right? Play to your strengths. Let us work on the other stuff that you're not strong at, so we can kind of elevate you up. So I just wanted to add that.
I love that, man. I love that. And so, and you've already kind of segued to the second thing that we got asked about, and that is that first meeting. Can you talk about that first meeting you have with the candidate in terms of what your goals are, what tactics maybe you use. I think you just kind of outlined, a couple right there. You're going to go in and from the very beginning, you're going to kind of set the agenda, which I love because I've seen a lot of recruiting leaders. They don't come in with a plan. And so for the first 30 minutes, they're doing the name game. Do you know Bob? Do you know Susie? You know Tom? Yeah. So do I. Yeah. And then the next 20 minutes, it's, gosh, let me tell you about this one loan that I won and stole from this realtor. And they're getting into this whole scenario. And then they just burn 50 minutes of a 60-minute meeting. Oh, by the way, let me tell you a little bit about myself and get to know you. Like, that doesn't work, So the agenda isn't just good for the recruit. It's also good for the manager and keeping them on point and making sure that they flow it. But do you have any other, again, tactics, philosophies, main goals that you have in that very first meeting that you have with a recruit?
Yeah. So and again, I think when you're first meeting with them, the most important thing is making sure that expectations are set on both sides. So, for me, I really want to let them know that this is an opportunity for us to be completely transparent, be honest. I tell almost everybody, I'm like, listen, if you came aboard in 30 days, you're going to know if I'm full of it and I'm going to know if you're full of it. So let's get it out of the way right now. Let's just be honest about everything. Whatever questions you have, let's ask, and then we'll figure out what the follow-up is. But, like for me is like, I want to, and I tell them also, I'm like, listen, I'm not here to talk bad about your company, about any other companies, what you can do, what you can't do. I honestly don't really care so much. I'll tell you who we are, what kind of company we are, and listen, and I'll tell them, and if it's you, I'll be like, hey, Shane, if we get through at the end of the hour and we're not a fit for each other, that's cool. Like, I'd rather know instead of force something and stuff. If you're not 100% crystal clear that we're going to be a fit and it's worth exercise or for you to come on board, it's okay. We can stay in contact. Maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe I just don't have all the things that is on your checklist to go. So I want to make sure that they understand, like, my goal is not saying, well, I need to recruit them no matter what. No, my goal is to say, hey, if I feel like they're part of the team and they're going to be a culture fit and they can add value to us and we can add value to them, then then we'll be a fit. And I also tell them that, it's, again, the company is one thing, but, I view them as self-employed. I look at the lender, the company, as the vehicle. And, so it's their personal brand, it's their branding, it's their social media, what they do to build their business. I mean, I see them as self-employed. They're responsible. They're directly responsible for their income and the goals they hit. Now, the company, whatever company that is the vehicle. Does that vehicle match up to what you're trying to accomplish? So I'm very crystal clear up front because, like I said, I don't want to waste time and I don't want them to waste their time either. And listen, sometimes, I even said it to you the other day. I said, hey, I might have somebody that's not a fit for us. I think maybe if you want to talk to them, it might be a fit for you. I mean, listen, we're all in the business, right? There's great opportunity now. So I'll definitely set those expectations. And then really for me is I want to know kind of their motivation, their why, what's the big picture stuff. So, I'll ask them, obviously get to know a lot about their family, their kids, what their motivation is. But then I'll get into my question I ask everybody. What are your two biggest challenges that you currently have right now? And then I let them talk. I let them share. And then when I talk to them and they share, and sometimes it's all over the place, but a lot of times it's either bad communication, uncertainty, not knowing where they're going with the company or what have you. And then I ask them, and this is from Casey Cunningham. I stole it from her. And if you had those things available to you and they weren't issues, what would it do to your business? And then I let them talk. And, for me, it's a good exercise for me to realize, like, as they're talking, they might point out something specific that I might have a solution for, that I might be able to say, hey, well, let me show you this and talk a little bit about this. So although I did my research before I went in, I'm kind of playing it off of their answers up to those questions based on what information I should share with them. So there's a lot more, but I want to kick it back to you.
Now, there's something I want to point out that for those that are watching is what Mike talked about is he has trained himself a very specific method of asking questions. Again, to compare it to sports, I'm working on my son. We're in this work from home, type situation. He's not playing Little League right now. It's giving us an opportunity to work on his swing. and there are some key things that he needs to improve on in his swing. And the beauty about it, though, is he's teaching himself to swing in a certain sequence, with certain exact moves. And the better that he can do that, he's going to be able to perfect it, if that makes sense. He can get really good at it. He's swinging with a purpose. It's no different than the questions that you're doing. Like you're training yourself to do this in a certain sequence so you can get really good at it and really understand how to leverage it. My sequence that I train when I do it is stick on a topic. So marketing, I think you referenced, right? So talking about how you market your past clients. So there's the topic.
Yeah.
The next one is, and I think you actually asked this, what do you wish you could do more, right? Because many of them are going to go, my company's got a drip campaign, or I pay, such and such, or HomeBot, whatever. And then the third one, so then you ask, well, what do you wish you could do more? And they'll give you something. And then there's a third question that I asked, and this is the script is, okay, so if you had that, what kind of impact would it have on your business? Those three things. And you can follow that script for every single key subject in an originator's business. Referral partners, right? So talk to me about where you get your business from. I get realtors. Okay, great. So what do you wish you could do more for realtors, right? And okay, great. What kind of impact would that have on your business? You can do it in social media. You can do it past client marketing. You can do it on, hell, even product mix. We talked about it earlier, right?
Yeah.
And whatever your sequence is, training yourself to ask questions tactically will extract the information that you need to get to know this person, but also to potentially uncover the values that you or your company can add in terms of value. So I love that you called that out. We didn't even talk about that. That was good stuff, man. Yeah. And then you said what motivates them. I agree, because it really, at the end of it, I think some of us are so wired to go into a meeting of, hey, I'm going to make you more money, or I'm going to help you do more volume, or maybe that's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe they want a better quality of life. Maybe they want more time.
And I think smart on our part, Shane, is not making the assumption to know, because sometimes it's hard because, all right, I want to close, $2 million more a month or what. In some case, it could be somebody say, hey, you know what? I'm working 100 hours a week. I'm killing myself. I'm not spending time with my family. I want to learn a more efficient process on how to continue to do the same volume, but empower my other team members and stuff to step in and alleviate, so I don't have to work 100 hours. So I think not making the assumption and asking them and then drilling down on it is key.
Now, in kind of this process, this meeting stage process, can you talk about how you balance the selling yourself as a leader and the impact that you can have on their business, versus the company, right? Because Movement obviously is invested in its infrastructure, just like Loan Depot has, and it ain't cheap. And there's been a lot of thought behind it and a lot of purpose. But ultimately, they're going to go work for you or one of your managers. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So I like this question because I try to remove me and I go to we when I'm in those conversations where, number one is I don't see that anybody works for me necessarily. I look at it as a partnership. So I try to stress the importance that if we decide to move in a relationship together, it's going to be a partnership. And a partnership isn't 50-50. I love what somebody told me one time. A partnership is 100-100. I'm going to give you 100%. I want to.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I share very important about the team, because I'm only as good as the people around me and the team that I have. So, for me, I'm looking at and saying, hey, I'm very clear on what resource I'm going to be to them and what I'm not. Like, I'll tell them right up front, I'm like, listen, loan level stuff, do not call me, loan level. So, and I tell people all the time, you don't need to know all the answers. You just need to know where to get them. And my job as a leader is to provide all the answers to you. So, hey, I want to know about programs. This is the email. This is who you call. I want to know about how to improve my social media. This is where you go. Coaches. So I provide with them and say, here's all the different departments, because what we want them to do is get stuck in the weeds on stuff. We want them to focus. I want them to focus on sales and originations. So I kind of show them all the other tools that are behind it. And I'm very clear to them, like, hey, I won't be your day-to-day on this, but here's the team that has it. and the team that are doing it are the people that are doing it daily. So, I really kind of stress to them about all the resources they have available, what they can take off their plate. And because I believe that every company, both that you can free up from some of the minutia that might be doing by utilizing some of the resources we have and let them focus more on sales. So I'm really big at taking it off of me and putting it on the team.
Yeah. And when I look at selling yourself versus, the company, when I lose recruits, to competition, and you kind of uncover why, it's very rare that I have a candidate say, well, they had this marketing system and you guys didn't, or the company provided this and you guys didn't. It's very, very common. I knew this leader for a long time, or I knew people that were on their team. And so I just felt comfortable, going to work with them because I knew the human being. That tells me the role that the hiring manager plays and having the confidence to understand that they are the number one value proposition, within the recruiting process is vital. And not just understanding it, but knowing how to sell it. Like many of us have a very, very difficult time quantifying the value that we're going to have in somebody's career. It's an awkward thing to say how great you are or tactically what the impact is. I've trained hiring managers that are they should be the easiest people to recruit to. They're $60-70 million producers. And I'll go, okay, tell me how you're going to make me a better originator. And they go, and I'll go, okay, well, tell me about how you do your business. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Your biggest value is that you do this better than pretty much anybody in your marketplace. You've got to succinctly be able to understand what those steps are that you're going to, the education you're going to instill on this person to help them accomplish their goals. And I find not enough leaders really prepare that aspect of it, and are ready to rattle off what they're going to do and or success stories. Right. Yeah. You got to be able to say, and, so not just I'm going to help you with, your personal branding, but, so I've got an originator on my team, looks just like you when she came or he came into the door. Let me tell you what we did with that. I just did an internal interview with one of our managers in Massachusetts, Cindy Gordon. And it was an interview actually with her and one of her recent hires. And he had said the thing that hooked me was before I started, she took me kind of a step by step, teaching me how she's going to help me create, put my loans in the system, communicate with the borrowers up front, put my packages together to assure I do it more efficiently and I don't have issues downstream. Had nothing to do with our tech, had nothing to do with it, everything to do with her value. And so I think that's a critical component that as a recruiting leader, you can be a master at your organization's platform. But if you can't get out of your mouth, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it succinctly, you're going to miss an opportunity and you're going to be swimming upstream because you're going to be competing against somebody who can. I think it's a critical component. So
so Shane, on just one point to add to that, it's one thing to tell people, what they can do, the opportunities they have. It's another thing to show them. So I like one thing that you said is, like for me, my job is, and I think all of us as a recruiter or as an attractor trying to get somebody on board, I don't think any of us should just say, hey, it's up to me 100% to get this person from cradle to grave and get them on board. Like, I think we need to go from the soloist to the conductor mentality where we're connecting them with different people on our team. And for example, in every meeting I do, probably one of the biggest things that I'm constantly in the forefront thinking is as they're talking, I'm like, oh, I know who I can connect them with. Oh, I got another person that reminds me just like that. So I let them know all through the meeting. So by the time I'm done with the meeting, just so I'm clear, is I have 2 to 3 people in the organization that I literally say, hey, I'm going to connect you as soon as we hang up. I'm going to connect you via text with this person. I didn't tell them anything about you, but just, jump on a call, ask any questions you want about me, about the organization, about how they did their business. Maybe it will be helpful. And regardless of position, so if it's something they're saying, hey, I want to know about marketing, I'll connect them with our regional marketing coordinator. If it's another LO and maybe they're a $40 million producer and they want to get to 100, I'll connect them with a $100 million producer. So I'm doing that constantly and pushing it out where it's not me, It's just, it's a team now sharing. But I think that's key, is all of us to identify. If you can identify like who they can connect from, I think that's our biggest job, is to be connectors. One of our biggest roles that we can do. And I'm really intentional about making sure that that's a follow-up. And I'll tell you, most of the times when I do that, they call back and say, wow, thank you so much. That gave me a lot more insight. Not that they didn't trust me, but now they're hearing it from a peer that's doing it. Because I tell them, hey, listen, if you want to know how to do it, go ask the person that's actually doing it. Not forget who they work for or under. That doesn't really mean anything. So I think you touched on it. I think that's a key point.
So let's stitch some of this together. Before you meet with them, you're doing research into their production, their personal life, their market. So you can begin to formulate questions that are going to, in a sense, guide the conversation. You prepare information that creates guardrails around what you guys are going to talk about a little bit, so you can steer the conversation in a way. You have a sequence of questioning that identifies what's important to their business, what's lacking in their business, right? Name me two things that you wish you could do more of, or that you had more of.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is that's uncovering those next meeting steps to, who in your fiefdom, if you will, to pull on, right? Like, oh gosh, this person's a marketing person. I'm getting him on the phone with this marketing person. This person is a loan manufacturer. I'm going to get him on the phone with my ops team. And so pick that up, guys. Like, each step in this meeting stage, he's got actions that are done purposefully that are setting up the next actions after that. In this vein, because I want to hear generally like what kind of stuff you guys do for follow-up. Obviously we have a list. I'm going to try this. We'll see if I can figure this out. I'm going to click it. Oh, it worked. So John Overfelt asked, now that we're actually working, from home, right? You're not able to be in the Starbucks. How are you connecting digitally with them, versus in person? And just to give you a few seconds to think, I'm actually going to steal something that you kind of set up earlier on. So John, when Mike had referenced family involved, my opinion is everyone's taking these meetings now pretty much from their house. At some point in the recruiting phase, especially maybe it's the benefit conversation or the career conversation, something that I think it's much easier now than ever before, less awkward, is, hey, by the way, while we're on Zoom, bring your spouse on. I'd love to be able to answer questions that maybe they have, or so they can hear my vision for the marketplace, or they can hear what I feel that you and I can do together. Bring your spouse on. I think that virtually now, this actually gives us a really big chance to involve their better halves in some cases in the recruiting process. The other thing, John, that personally I think that you have to do, and we're uncovering this now as an organization, we've got really good technology platform. And so we talk about our loan manufacturing, we got our marketing. And what we were doing, and we're still doing, is we're doing demos of them. So recruits, hey, you want to see what we have? Come take a look. And I'm assuming all companies are doing this right now because we got to do something, right? And come take a look at my marketing. What I'm uncovering in this process, though, is the first time somebody sees a completely foreign platform, I mean, it's just like, okay, that was cool, and clearly we're going to show the highlights. What I'm encouraging leaders to do now is to do something that we never really would have done in our recruiting process, is to almost go through whatever your platform is twice. The first time is the overview. The first time is the sizzle, if you will, and kind of get their attention and saying, look, yeah, we've got this. The second time, though, is almost for them. Hey, I want you to watch one of my loan officers put a loan in the system, maybe as an example. Or how would you want to market your realtor? Okay, let me show you what I would do in this system, and make it more of a personal experience to their business so they can see the speed and ease. Because we're not getting that opportunity to have the meeting in a Starbucks or in a hotel lobby, wherever you did, give them the overview and then bringing them in. We're doing it all kind of online. So I think that we have to be more deliberate about not just showing off our shiny toys, but getting them to connect, to understand what those systems and platforms are built to do to impact their business. But Mike, what do you got, right now that you're doing a little bit different?
Yeah, so I mean, listen. I mean, I'm sure, like a lot of us, right? We live on Zoom right now. I wish I bought stock in Zoom a couple months ago, but it's. I've realized a lot more over the last couple months because I was a big like, hey, jump on the phone, call people, and here's my 1-800 call number. I, I threw it away. I don't even use it. Everything's on Zoom. Hey, the great thing about Zoom is you only have to dress from the waist up. If you're at home, so sometimes
Can
that
I
could be
stand
good.
up real quick for us?
What's
No,
that?
no.
So and I was joking with you. Usually I'm wearing a hat. I had to do my hair for
Yeah.
but you got your pandemic haircuts going on. But so I mean, I love it. I just love being able to connect with people, talking to them. It helps the conversation go back and forth. It makes it more fluid. It just connects with them. And I think just like being face to face is people want to see that are they passionate? Are they engaged? So versus, right, there's nothing worse than when you're on your phone and you hear the typing as you're talking to somebody on the phone,
Yeah.
right? So this really gets a real connection, right? So the whole thing about for us is we want the walls down. I want the walls of that somebody might have up when they don't know me well. I want them to get to know me very well as quick as possible. Know that I'm going to be legit. I'm going to be honest, but I also care. And so I think that's key. And I think it's such a great opportunity to do this. And I love what you said about, hey, like bring the spouse out. I mean, I don't know how many Zoom calls I see and there's the dog jumping up, the kids screaming, going through the past. So
They're going to be there anyways. Just invite them in. Why not?
yeah, I actually love it. It's actually comical. It's funny. I had to warn my whole household before I was doing this. I was like, hey, from 1 to 2, like, keep the dogs locked up. I had a contractor upstairs. Like, I mean, I had to tell everybody, but you know what? It just shows that we're all the same people. We're going through the same thing right now. And now more than ever, it's just connecting with people. I got to tell you, I mean, I'm fired up from this call and, I can't wait to start recruiting this afternoon. So I just love this digital thing. I think it's a great, and John asked a question. I think a lot of us like do more of it. A lot of people will say they're uncomfortable. Just do it. Just do it again, do it again, do it again, and you'll get comfortable at it.
And John, the other thing I want to go back to what we had talked about earlier. I will say, I think it puts, because really the question is like, I'm not going to be able to be belly to belly, face to face. You're not going to be able to really feel my energy. I do think it puts a lot of pressure on the prep work that you do. And you gave me a reason to put this back on the screen. Like this type of stuff, I think really, really matters because when Mike was talking about pulling up market information, if you're able to dig in to understand who the realtors are or who the top, like understanding their business and speaking to their business really matters because there's a lot of recruiting leaders that you're competing against right now that are stuck just selling shiny toys. That's all they're doing. They're just doing demos and praying to goodness that that's enough and that the person's in enough pain. And so really, really honing in on how are you going to extract from them their visions, their values, their goals, the things that they're missing, the things that they want to do more, what their long-term plans are. It's really got to become more about them and really, really purposefully. So it's not ad hoc, not off the seat of your pants. And I think that you'll end up connecting with them and little tchotchke stuff. So, all right. I was going to ask what post first meeting actions are, but I think everyone knows, that type of stuff, right? Like pulling your ops partner, pulling other originators, pulling leaders, marketing, all that other stuff. So I prepped you so that way you didn't come out with your best. One sizzle, like I really didn't want to share this with anybody because I'm hoping I'm the only one that does this. And if you steal mine, I'm going to be pissed. One thing that, and keep in mind, I have no brand. So, I guarantee you, like, we don't have 1,000 people on this. So you're not going to let the cat out of the bag. One sizzle action that you do in your recruiting process to kind of get a candidate's attention.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I call them wow factors and, it's another thing. And talking with Casey Cunningham.
Yeah.
Long ago, she talked about the wow factors and to mix it up. And, there was like a list of all this stuff. And I remember looking at them. So, one of my favorite quotes of all time that I live by is the fortunes and the follow-up. And it's from a book, 3 Feet from Gold. It was actually one of the first I ever read. And it just made it in. I mean, it really is in the follow-up. And what are you doing to not just follow up on the items that you discussed, right? Like, so the takeaways, hey, Shane has discussed, here's the 3 people I wanted to connect you with. Here's the information on benefits. Here's that. So then, based on the conversation, I'll go home and say, hey, what would be something that would be different for them to receive? And again, like I mentioned earlier, like books is a big thing for me that I'll do. I'll listen, if they were talking about cheesesteaks and they're, and I'm in the Philly market and they're here, I'll send them out cheesesteak shipped to their house and stuff. Like, I'll just try to do something so different, so off the wall that they're like, well, that's crazy. Why would they send me this? So, just anything. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, send them. I think just showing that you care and that you take value in there. Sometimes just a thank you note. Sometimes just a simple text or a note or a card and say, hey, really appreciate the time today. Glad you did this, and glad we were able to get together. Glad that you were very transparent with me. Looking forward to next steps, and balls in your court. So so just I'll think of a million different things. I mean, I'll be honest with you. As I'm talking, I'm thinking about yours that I know, and I love it. So, I'm definitely stealing it, not on this call, but I'll steal it after the fact.
That's all right. So I'm going to share it. And by the way, if anyone on my team's watching this, they're going to punch me in the face. But my thing is, when it comes to marketing ideas, we're all going to copy it at some point. So whatever. All right. So mine is, if you haven't heard of Cameo, I'm going to do a screen share right now. So Mike, you mentioned Philly, right?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can figure out the screen share. All right. So Cameo is a website that you can pay money to have an athlete, a star, a reality TV star, send a personalized message to a recipient. And you can have them send it to you, and then you can forward it. So you mentioned Philly. I know you know Jaws. Ron.
Oh, yeah.
You've got T.O., you got other players that were with the Eagles. So I could get Terrell Owens for $350 to say, hey, what's going on? Shane said great things about you. You got to go work with Shane over at Loan Depot. Now, I'm awful at giving gifts, to my wife. I don't think she's ever received anything from me that she hasn't returned because I suck at it. So I got her one of these from just this trash reality TV show that she watches. And it was for Mother's Day. It was awesome. I mean, at least I thought it was awesome. I laughed. But if a candidate that you talked about doing research into what they're interested in, right? So whether it's sports or a show or a college, if a candidate expresses interest in a particular area, what a really cool thing than to have somebody from, whatever they follow and that they're passionate about, sending a personalized message. Obviously, they're going to know it's a tchotchke marketing idea. But it's just a very, very cool thing. A buddy of mine, you probably actually know him, Mark McGowan. His son, hell of a hockey player, just graduated from Wake Forest. He had Mark Messier congratulate his son on graduating from Wake Forest and going. I mean, it's just cool. It's just a neat thing. So, but all right. So there's Cameo. So now the people are going to copy it. All right. You did mention something though that I want to highlight. You talked about, kind of the fortune is in the follow-up. And I'm going to guess like other parts of your business, you've got kind of mechanical things that you do in your recruiting, how you confirm your appointments, the kind of follow-up. Can you talk a little bit about the mechanics that you do, at the meeting stage with the candidate?
Yeah. So, and this is again, just a really great point. So, is I never end a stage with not knowing the next step for the next stage. So, right, when I'm doing my initial call, I don't get off the phone until I have a date for a meeting set up. After the meeting set up, I give them a list of the stuff that I need, and then I tell them the time frame I'm looking for it back. So I'll say, okay, because listen, again, I don't want no BS. And I tell them right up front, I want your W-2s. I want this. If I'm going to come to you with a potential offer, I want to come 100% prepared time. I also let them know I'm not going to negotiate. I'm very clear and say, hey, I'm not here to negotiate and throw stuff up. I'm going to present an offer to you, which I think is a fair, great offer. So I'm setting that up. So when they get it, so if I'm telling them like, hey, listen, it's Monday right now. I want an offer in your hand by Wednesday. In order for that to happen, I need these 3 things from you. Can you get me that by Wednesday? The good thing for me is now I'm qualifying them saying, okay, if they tell me yes, are they going to follow through? Right? Am I getting that? Because that's a good sign as it is. If they're late or if they don't send it to me on Wednesday and they don't give me a heads up it wasn't coming, well, I just kind of knocked him down a little bit. I mean, I love John Maxwell tells me, like, when he meets people, he puts a 10 on everybody's head. From a 1 to 10, you're a 10. It's your job to keep the 10 on your head. So during that process, I'm looking at what people are doing and stuff. Are there follow-up? Are they following through? And I make sure I'm setting expectations. And because for me, I like to shorten that recruiting window. Like, I hear stuff from all over. Somebody say, yeah, recruiting is 60-day process, 90, longer. I let them know, like, hey, no, we are going to make a decision and know within 3 weeks whether we're ready to move forward or not. And the timing, when you start, doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure that we're in alignment, right? We're on the same page. We're going to work through. So the mechanic piece is clear, that I'm setting every step. And my team, the people I connect them with, they know when I send an email, they're on the phone with them that day, talking to them, following up with me. So I want sense of urgency is key. So I want every step done kind of mechanical like that, to make sure that I'm ensuring a good process. And then listen, so I also know that at the end of that process, if it's not a fit, we could say, hey, seems like we're far apart on this stuff. That's okay. And then, hey, let's keep in touch. Maybe something will change in the future.
Well, and what you're bringing to it is I've yet to find a super successful loan originator who doesn't set expectations that they have on their borrowers in the very first conversation. Like, here's the deal. If we're going to do this, I'm going to need these documents from you, and I'm going to need them in the next 24 hours, or I can't lock this loan. We can't move forward. I can't give you the service that you want. Now, I'll still do business with you, but you ain't going to get everything that I need in the time that I want. And I find a lot of recruiting leaders, because they don't do it enough, right? They're not talking to a recruit and meeting a recruit every single day. They're almost like, this is my one shot. Like, I gotta do this. And if I push too hard, the candidate's they're gonna push away. You've got to have the confidence to understand that not every recruit should be hired.
Yeah.
Not every recruit deserves your leadership. Yeah. And with that gives you permission to establish some rules of engagement, right? You know, the phrase, we all got our own cliches. You know, you had said it, but for me, it's every interaction with an action. And an action for me has a date, a time, and a purpose. If you're missing one of those three, you don't have an action. Yeah. Too many leaders, because they're afraid to push on the point, are, all right, well, think about it. Let me know what you think. You know, I'll maybe call you next week. And no, if you tactically ask the right questions during the process, and figured out, for example, that they have a goal of, I don't know, doing more social media stuff. It's okay. So here's the deal. What's your schedule look like Tuesday, Wednesday next week? Give me times that don't work for you, because I want to get you on the phone with my marketing person so they can show you what we're going to do. Oh, okay. So Tuesday at 12. Okay, great. Like, and I'll text you later and I'll confirm. Like, you've got to take control of it, because the other cliche phrase that's been floating around is time kills enthusiasm. Yeah. And if it is a 60-day recruiting cycle, good luck, man. It's going to come down to the offer, which is an awful place to be. I'm much better person fighting to get in here.
Yeah, and Shane, just a tip for our team on the call today is, like, you know, and again, and we've obviously learned, we're continuing to learn and grow and on what we can do better. But if you go to the candidate and say, hey, get back to me and let me know a time we can connect, they might have all intentions, but then life gets in the way, business gets in the way. So when I'm on that call, I'm like, hey, I have Tuesday at 11 or Tuesday at 2:30. Which time works best for you? So I'm giving them options. Now, listen, if they come back and say, hey, I'm booked there. Okay, so what about Wednesday at 4:30 or Thursday morning at 9 a.m.? So I'm doing it because, and then immediately, as soon as they send that to me, I'm sending the calendar invite, booking it quick. I'm copying my assistant. She's booking it, setting up a Zoom. So again, speed of action, because listen, me, if I don't do it, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to be like, oh shit. That person. So
the question for that, and I don't know why this works better. I'm sure there's a psychological reason, and I'm just not smart enough to know it. The question I ask when I'm trying to hone people in on the time, because it's the time that always locks it in, right? They go, Tuesday, I think. The question I ask, and I'm just going to say for everybody, train yourself to ask it this way. What times on Tuesday don't work for you? For whatever reason, that triggers them to go look at their calendar and go, oh, yeah, I can't do it from 10 to 11, because inevitably, and this always happens, like Tuesday morning, that would work. Okay, great. So what times don't work on Tuesday morning? Next thing you know, oh, Yeah, I have a call from 10 to 11. So anything before or after. There's nothing more difficult or a pain in the ass when you're recruiting them or trying to, get them to the next step is, okay, so we'll do it at 10. Oh, I can't do it at 10. I got a meeting. Well, you said you were available in the morning. So ask the question, what times don't work for you? And then everything else does. And if you don't have a time that whoever you're hooking them up with works, say, great, do me a favor. Put in your calendar right now, 2:00, and I'm going to confirm with my person, and I'll get back to both of you before the end of the day. So that way we can confirm that in. So you've instructed them to block out the time to make sure that later on it's not taken. Good action.
I love that. I'm stealing that.
Yeah. So from a mechanics, this came up when I was talking to Brandon last time, and I did an awful job, kind of going in depth, and I'll probably do it again. There was a realtor thing that I watched, and one of the realtors had talked about their communication style with everything that they do, and they said, don't be basic. There are enough leaders today, there are enough recruiters today that are still so afraid of video for whatever reason, that if you are the person that is communicating them as a follow-up, hey, what's going on, Mike? That was fun, man. I really enjoyed getting together with you. This is what, we're going to talk about next and blah, blah, blah. But you do that as a video message. The impact on that, for whatever reason, it just stands out. Like, it means more to the candidate. Like, it almost, because they're in a lot of cases afraid of video. And so in their mind, it's like, wow, this person went above and beyond to send me a video message versus a regular text. Where in actuality, for me, sending video messages are quicker than text. I suck, typing with my thumbs. Yeah. Mechanically, that's something I also recommend that everyone do after every interaction or to set up one is think about how you can implement video communication when talking and confirming with candidates. So
Shane, that's a great tip. I've seen you do it and stuff, and you're right. It means more to see it, and everybody's gonna. I mean, listen, it's just like text, but everybody's gonna do that versus read an email necessarily right away. So it's gonna go quick. I love how you do that. I think that's a great resource.
So we got. I said an hour was the most. We got 3 minutes. Okay. So one more, and then you actually have a job to do. So I appreciate the time, man. For those people that end up watching this or are watching this that have recruiting partners. Can you talk a little bit? I know you guys do. You have some amazing recruiters over there, with Ben Green and team. Can you talk a little bit about how you interact with them during the recruiting process, the meeting stage, and how you leverage them to make your recruiting, more successful?
Yeah, and that's great. And we actually, I think I shared with you, we were doing that a little yesterday with our team, just talking through, because they want to know. So it's important to make sure you're aligned with the hiring manager. Like, having the ability to have a recruiting team to source, qualify, get people lined up. It's a great tool to have to kind of queue people up, but you got to make sure that we're aligned with what you're sharing would be the same information that the recruiting manager would be sharing as well. So the first thing is we said, hey, really get to spend time with them, really get to know them personally, professionally, know a little bit about their background. Because it's one thing to say, talk as a recruiter, to talk to a potential candidate and say, hey, well, our branch leader or our sales manager, Mike, so versus, hey, my friend Shane and stuff, let me tell you a little bit about him, what he's done with the company. So I think getting to know them personally, professionally is definitely key. And then just making sure they're part of the process to understand them, like, hey, what are you going to handle? What am I going to handle? So, like, for example, I have some hiring managers that, they just want the candidate sourced. Hey, give me the basic information, give me a profile sheet, their basic information, hand off, set up the appointment, and then you're good. I have other people who are like, hey, I would love you to kind of take them a little bit further through the process, go through some of the basic marketing, all that stuff. Almost like what we said before, don't make an assumption and like a one size fits all, because I don't believe that's the case. We all have stuff that we're gifted at, and we definitely have stuff we're not gifted at. So for me, I'm not going to go through a marketing platform. So I'll make sure that my recruiting manager has that in place and they can touch on that. And I also want to find out as a hiring manager, I want to find out what the recruiter thinks they're best at, what their gifts, because I want to let them shine on that. So I think just getting to know and understanding and just being flexible hey, because the last thing a candidate wants is me and you both calling them, Shane, and talking about the same specific things, right? So I think it's more like, hey, Shane, can you do me a favor? You're good at the social media, the technology, which I know you're not, but I'm not either. But you're good at these three things. Can you touch on this? And then I'll handle more of the product specific, the guidelines, more big picture vision. So I think each candidate knowing what they're looking for and knowing your strengths and weaknesses between the two, I think are key.
And for the leader that you described first, the one who says, "Give me the name, maybe schedule the appointment, I'm good." Now I'm a recruiter, right? I've been doing it for 20 years, so I'm a bit biased here. I would say that leader is missing an opportunity, and the reason why I say that is a few things. You kind of hit the nail on the head when you were talking earlier about if you don't set a specific time and day, things are going to come up. I can't tell you how many leaders that are passionate about recruiting, that want to hire this person. They're also managing a branch, right? They're also dealing with pipe, and they're also dealing with people. Guess what the recruiter's focused on? One thing.
Recruiting. Yeah.
Recruiting. And so the recruiter, is somewhat of an accountability partner. Like, they're not going to let anything slide, because again, if you want to get them in that 2 to 3 week window, dude, you got to be on point. Nothing can slide. Yeah. Number two is, nobody's going to sell you better than somebody else in a lot of cases, right? Because if you go, "Oh, I'm going to tell you about how great I am and tell you about my successes and my wins," you can sound pompous. But the recruiter, they can absolutely sell you. The third thing is, if I'm going to come work for you, I'm not necessarily going to open up my concerns about you to you. Mike, man, I don't know. You do this and it has me concerned. Where the recruiter, they will open up to. They'll talk about their concerns a little bit, giving the company and giving a partner an opportunity to helping that candidate through it. Because maybe it's a misunderstanding, or maybe it's actually not real, right? And the recruiter can help get over it. And so keeping the recruiter engaged in the process, my experience is, A, it's going to make sure accountability steps happen. B, it's going to make sure that the manager is sold to the absolute best. And C, if there's any objections that maybe we're missing because the manager is just not going to hear about it, they're going to uncover it better and get over it. I've always found that recruiting partner is being pretty critical. And we don't want to call them at the same time, same day, same everything. What happens is, if you got a really good partner, you kind of get your system in place, right? Like, okay, great. Yeah. You met the candidate, know this manager. I'm calling them the next day, every single time, right? And I'll get the QC and I'll lay down, and you get your rules of the road and you prevent coming over top of each other. But we've hit the hour. We're actually 2 minutes past. So anything else, man, that we want to throw out there that we missed?
I mean, listen, no, I think there's some great stuff, and I love how you kind of queued everything up. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they like and they trust. They don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. So if you can demonstrate that in the process, listen to me, the best thing in a leader to me is authenticity. Is, be honest with who you are, what you have to offer, what your company can do. And if it's a no, it's okay. And let them know that. Let them know up front. Like, hey, my goal isn't to make you sign on the paper no matter what. No, my goal is to make sure it's a fit. Last thing I want to do is, like I said, in 30, 40, 50, 60 days, realize like, oh, this really wasn't a good fit. I mean, we have an opportunity with all the tools and resources we have to be completely transparent. So I think it's great. I think it's, listen, I learned a couple new things, so I appreciate you putting this together and everybody that joined. So however we can be of assistance, then let us know. Thank you, Shane, so much.
But like Spooner, you outshine me, so this might get deleted. Might not, I will see. But seriously, man, you absolutely crushed. I'm sure everyone who watched this got value out of it. I appreciate you doing this with me and taking the time, man. So have a kick-ass day, all right? And thank you.
Too. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Hey, guys.